Welcome to Family Basics 101. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, and as we begin our second of a five-part series entitled The Phobias, today we will focus on the cause of phobias. As we mentioned, phobias are, phobias are a persistent, irrational fear of objects, people, and situations. According to the Mayo Clinic, there does not seem to be a definite one cause of phobia, but they have discovered that there is a link between a person's personal phobias and those of their parents or close family members for some strange reason. Mayo Clinic believes that children's observations of adult reactions may be the major trigger in replicating the same or similar phobias in children and as well as young adults. Another major cause of phobias are one's personal exposures to traumatic or threatening situations, like threats of people or threats of objects. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, between 4 and 5% of the general population experiences one or more phobic reactions every single year. Now, let's look at a broader picture. 6.3 million Americans are believed to have experienced phobias, and 2 to 1, these are women. It appears as if the trauma, the impact of the fear-inducing or the phobic-inducing event has a longer and a greater impact on the female population than it does its male counterpart. According to a study by Maskey, it appears also that humans are predisposed to respond with some caution to things such as noxious animals, rats, poisonous reptiles, animals with disgusting appearances. And this all serves as a protector. It raises an alert system in individuals to first make sure that the animals, the reptiles, the animals are safe to be around. So that type phobia is not persistent over time, and even if it was, it's always to protect the safety of the individual. Additional research has shown that people develop phobias toward things, as we've stated earlier, situations, and even people that they sense potentially as a danger that they cannot control. In essence, phobias are also developed inside the mind of individuals by uncontrollable events, uncontrollable objects, and uncontrollable people. Most people have a natural fear of height, thunder, lightning, fire. And in essence, because they really have no control over them. You can't squelch the sound of thunder. If you're going to fly, you cannot regulate how high the plane flies. If you're going to go up a stairwell, you cannot dictate the height of those stairs. You can't regulate the heat in a furnace that is not temperature controlled in your own home. If there's a lightning storm outside, you have no control over that lightning storm. And people develop phobias over items such as these, mostly because They are out of their control. With social phobias, however, the cause often links to low self-esteem, lack of assertiveness, and a sense of inferiority. So therefore, the overriding fear in social settings is caused because the individual feels as if they might be humiliated in a social setting. And that becomes their reason and honestly the underlying cause of the social phobias. Many social phobias are developed by a lack of esteem building by the nurturing home. The self-worth, the trust versus mistrust that is supposed to be developed in a child during the first 1 year of life is not developed. And because of that, children oftentimes will grow up with an unmistaken phobia about people as well as life. In the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verses 8 through 11, there's a situation with a nation, the nation of Israel, God's people. They've been in Egyptian bondage for over 400 years. And Moses is given to them by God to bring them out of bondage. To a degree, they trusted Moses, but even more so, they feared the Egyptians and especially their king. Moses will go in, perform miracles. The children of Israel still had a phobia toward the Egyptians and the Egyptian king. Moses is able to get them out of Egypt. They're traveling toward freedom, and then they look behind them, and the Egyptian army is pursuing them. And they fear as if they are trapped. And when they look behind and they see the Egyptians pursuing them, and they see the Red Sea in front, their phobia about the power of Egypt and their phobia about the power of the Pharaoh, based on a 400-year history, begins to take precedence. And then they respond to Moses, who they should not have feared. But listen to the text. They said to Moses, "Because there were no graves in Egypt, have you taken us away to die in this wilderness? Wherefore have you dealt so with us, to carry us away from Egypt?" Their fear was in Egypt. Their anxiety was in Egypt. But now they're saying to Moses, their deliverer, in essence, they're saying to God, who's their comforter, that we are so afraid of the Pharaoh that we cannot see the opportunity in our future. It puts them in a panic to where they can't think straight, nor can they reason correctly. And lest it had been for God telling Moses to direct the children of Israel to stand still and watch him work, they would have allowed their very fear, their very phobic response to the Egyptians to create a crisis almost of annihilation. Our fears are not supposed to make us stop in our tracks. Our fears are to be given over to God and allow him to work peace in our lives. I'll see you back in class again next time. Don't be late and don't skip class.